The mind of a serial killer is not loud. It does not scream. It does not announce itself with madness or chaos. Most of the time, it is quiet, orderly, and disturbingly calm. That is what makes it terrifying. While the outside world imagines serial killers as monsters dripping with rage, the truth is far colder. The real horror is not in the violence itself, but in how normal everything feels to the person committing it. The mind does not see blood the way others do. It does not feel guilt the way others feel it. Instead, it observes, calculates, waits, and when it acts, it often feels relief rather than remorse. At the core of a serial killer's psychology is emotional disconnection. This is not simply a lack of empathy, but a fractured relationship with emotion itself. Many serial killers describe feeling empty long before their first crime. Not sad, not angry, empty. A hollow space where meaning should be. This emptiness becomes unbearable over time. The brain, desperate to feel something, anything, begins searching for intensity. Fear, power, control, dominance. Violence becomes a tool to feel alive. The act itself is not always the goal. The psychological shift before and after is. Unlike crimes of passion, serial killing is rarely impulsive. It is ritualistic. The brain thrives on patterns. Planning stimulates dopamine. Anticipation becomes addictive. The killer replays scenarios in their mind long before acting. This fantasy stage is crucial. It allows them to rehearse power without consequence. Over time, fantasy stops being enough. The mind wants more realism, more sensation, more control. This is when fantasy bleeds into reality, and the boundary between imagination and action dissolves. Many serial killers report a sense of transformation during their crimes. A psychological switch flips. The ordinary self fades, replaced by something colder, sharper, more focused. This state is sometimes described as dissociation. The killer feels detached from their body, as if watching themselves from outside. Pain, noise, even resistance from victims feels distant. This dissociation protects the psyche from moral conflict. It allows the brain to operate without interference from empathy or fear. Control is the central currency of the serial killer's mind. It is not always about death. It is about ownership. To control another human completely is to reverse years of feeling powerless. Many killers experienced early lives marked by neglect, humiliation, or emotional invisibility. They learned early that their needs did not matter. Killing becomes a twisted correction of that imbalance. For a moment, the world revolves around them. Another human's fear confirms their existence. The brain records this sensation as reward. Dopamine surges. Neural pathways strengthen. What begins as curiosity or fantasy becomes compulsion. Each act reinforces the next. This is why serial killers rarely stop voluntarily. The brain learns that violence equals relief. Stress, anger, boredom, frustration. Violence becomes the solution to emotional discomfort. Over time, tolerance builds. The killer needs more intensity to achieve the same psychological effect. This escalation is why crimes often become more frequent or more brutal. One of the most disturbing aspects of serial killer psychology is the absence of internal alarm. Most people experience guilt as a physical sensation, tightness in the chest, nausea, anxiety. Serial killers often report none of this. Their moral compass does not activate in the same way. This does not always mean they were born without conscience. In many cases, empathy was eroded slowly through trauma, reinforcement, and repeated moral disengagement. The brain adapts to what it practices. There is also the role of identity. Serial killers do not always see themselves as villains. Some see themselves as hunters, some as judges, some as artists. The mind constructs narratives to justify behavior. These stories are not lies to the killer. They are truth. The brain prefers coherence over morality. If violence fits the story, it becomes acceptable. This self-mythology is powerful. It gives meaning to destruction. It turns chaos into purpose. Social masks are another critical element. Many serial killers function well in daily life. They work. They socialize. They appear unremarkable. This is not coincidence. The ability to compartmentalize is highly developed. The brain builds walls between identities. On one side is the ordinary self. On the other is the hidden self. These compartments rarely leak until stress increases or control slips. This duality allows killers to blend in, often hiding in plain sight. Fear is not absent from the serial killer's mind. It is redirected. They do not fear their victims. They fear exposure, being seen, losing control. The anxiety of being caught often outweighs the fear of killing. This fear sharpens their planning. It makes them meticulous. Ironically, the same anxiety that drives them to kill also fuels their caution. Some killers report hearing an inner voice, not always auditory, but psychological. A pressure, a pull, a sense of inevitability. This is not always psychosis. It is compulsion. The brain's reward system demanding stimulation. When denied, tension builds. Irritability increases. Sleep disturbances appear. The killer becomes restless. Acting releases this pressure. Afterward comes calm, sometimes even peace. This cycle mirrors addiction more than madness. The role of fantasy cannot be overstated. Fantasy is rehearsal. It is control without risk. Many serial killers begin with voyeurism, stalking, or cruelty to animals. These acts stimulate similar neural circuits while lowering inhibition. Over time, the fantasies evolve. They become more detailed, more violent, more specific. The brain learns to associate arousal with domination. Violence becomes eroticized, even if the killer does not consciously recognize it as sexual. Another chilling factor is how memory functions. Serial killers often remember their crimes with clarity, but without emotional weight. The memories are vivid yet detached. This emotional flatness allows recollection without distress. Some even revisit crime scenes mentally for pleasure. Memory becomes a private theater, replayed during moments of boredom or stress. Despite popular belief, many serial killers are not driven by rage. Rage is chaotic. They are driven by control, emptiness, and obsession. Anger may trigger the urge, but the act itself is calculated, cold, precise. This is why the violence feels unnatural. It lacks the emotional noise we expect. The brain's relationship with death also changes. Repeated exposure desensitizes fear responses. Death becomes abstract. Victims become objects, obstacles, tools. This dehumanization is not always conscious. It is neurological efficiency. Empathy interferes with control. The brain suppresses it. What makes this psychology truly horrifying is how human it begins. Loneliness, rejection, powerlessness. The difference lies in how the mind adapts. Most people seek connection. Serial killers seek domination. When connection feels impossible, control becomes substitute intimacy. The victim's fear becomes interaction. Their suffering becomes acknowledgement. There is no single profile, no single cause. The serial killer's mind is not born. It is shaped, slowly, quietly, by reinforcement, fantasy, trauma, and choice. Each step feels justified to the one taking it. That is the most disturbing truth. From inside, it often feels reasonable. And perhaps the most unsettling part is this. The serial killer's mind does not feel monstrous to itself. It feels awake, focused, purposeful. While the world sees horror, the killer often experiences clarity. That disconnect between internal calm and external devastation is where true terror lives. The mind of a serial killer is not a storm. It is a frozen lake, still on the surface, deadly beneath. And once you understand that, you realize the scariest monsters are not the ones who look insane, but the ones who feel nothing at all.